Hello, and welcome to No Blue Box Allowed, the show about UK sci-fi TV that will never have to go through a tendering process. And this time, we're not looking at just one story, but rather an anthology of them. Our story begins in 1970 with the BBC's drama strand Play for Today, later known as the Thursday Play. It was a series of one-off dramas, usually of the kitchen sink variety, written by the likes of John Osborne, Dennis Potter and Mike Leigh. It would eventually be broken up in the 80s into Screen 1 and Screen 2, but notable successes are Abigail's Party, regarded by some as one of the finest one-off dramas in UK television history, and Rumpole of the Bailey, which was to spawn its own series. Of interest to us, however, is the episode The Flip Side of Dominic Hyde, written by Jeremy Paul and Alan Gibson, and starring Colin Baker lookalike Peter Firth. This episode was broadcast in December 1980. It tells the story of Dominic, a man from the future, who travels back in time to the 1980s to look for his great-grandfather. While there, he meets a lady called Jane, and you can probably guess what happens from there. Paradoxes be damned. Still, it was popular enough that BBC bosses were encouraged to launch a spin-off focused around science fiction. And that brings us to April 1982 and the launch of Play for Tomorrow. Be warned, however, that this is 1980s BBC, when even its flagship sci-fi shows weren't getting any money. So don't expect any great special effects here. The first episode, Crimes, sees a group of prisoners sent for some form of rehabilitation technique. It's a bit Clockwork Orangey. And we learn about the world in which they live through the prisoners describing their experiences. We learn it's a very violent authoritarian world, where the wealthy live in luxury while the workers toil below. And then Dave Hill pops up. You may recognise him from every UK TV show ever. And he tells us how to prepare for the nuclear bombs dropping. It's pretty good, actually.
Mrs. Drake may get a small fine, or she may get a conditional discharge. Maybe she'll get a probation officer, but she won't be acquitted because she's going to plead guilty. In some ways, she's a very clear-headed old lady. In other ways, confused. She definitely did the thing she's accused of, so she says she must be guilty. What she did was open the front door of her house and step out onto the front step. What she has been charged with is an offence under the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
Anti-EU sentiment abound in episode 2, Bright Eyes, as Robin Ellis tries to save his daughter from execution for political dissent and refusing to join the European Army. Episode 3, Cricket, takes a strange turn into the world of village sports. Now, there is a plot about surveillance state and government buying up all the farmlands, but I don't know, it seems a little out of place. Then we go to the year 1999 for the nuclear family. Do you remember 1999, kids? When we all paid to go to labour camps on our holidays to prepare for the oncoming Armageddon?
Anytime, my boy.
Are you responsible?
Is anyone these days? That's the question.
I mean for this place, for this accommodation you've given us.
Don't you like it?
The walls are damp, there's no proper light, there's no central heating, there's no air conditioning.
You're on holiday, Gary. What do you expect?
Episode 5, Shades, is all about kids using VR glasses to go back and relive historical events. In this particular episode, they're focusing on the CND anti-nuclear campaigns to see what life was like before the bombs dropped. Easter 2016 is perhaps the most controversial episode, as a group of students in Ireland make their plans for a march to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the 1916 uprising. There are some famous faces here, such as Bill Nye, Kenneth Branagh, and Chief O'Brien, weirdly credited as Colm Meaney. Despite its then futuristic setting and the implied authoritarianism, that is all essentially just background to what is a story about the Troubles, which, despite what we tell ourselves, is still ongoing today. A curious side note, however, to all these episodes, and perhaps reflecting where the BBC was politically at the time, are all the constant references to the SDP. They're treated like the enemy lurking in the background. The BBC seemed genuinely terrified that they could come to power. And that's all of them. Play for Tomorrow only ran for these 6 episodes, which are predictably a mixed bag. Some are very good, such as Crimes and Easter 2016, and some are not so good, such as Cricket. As to why it was cancelled, perhaps it didn't get the viewing figures that the BBC were looking for. Perhaps Sci-Fi fans were looking for something more fantastical. But in general, the 1980s were not a good time for UK sci-fi TV. There is no official release of Play for Tomorrow, though the episodes are easy enough to find, and you can get an official DVD release of The Flip Side of Dominic Hyde, along with its own sequel, Another Flip for Dominic. And that's all for this edition. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please feel free to like and subscribe and do all the good YouTube stuff. Boost the algorithm. And I will see you next time.